the Reconstructionist Radio Podcast Network presents Worldview Media Podcast, where Gordon and Joyce Runyon view popular media through the lens of the biblical five-point covenant model to help believers appreciate and apply principles of exciting narrative and engaging storytelling.
You're after something. Is it revenge? Money? Or is it something else? You look good. A little rough around the edges, but good.
Heard about a job. Big shot gangster putting together crew.
I'm a driver, and I'm a flyer. I waited a long time for a shot like this. What do you think? Well, what do you know?
You got a line on a ship?
Yeah, I know a guy. He's the best smuggler around.
I heard a story about you. I was wondering if it's true. Everything you've heard about me is true. L3! Let's go with a mean man's face.
Who are these guys? If you come with us, you're in this life for good.
You might want to buckle up, baby.
Hello and welcome to this week's exciting edition of the Worldview Media Podcast. We are coming to you live from a futuristic space train that will almost certainly become a ride at Disney shortly. It's from the movie Solo. That's what we're here to talk about, is Solo.
Solo.
I'm your host, Gordon Runyon, and with me is the whole entire veritable Worldview Media Podcast
Veritable.
crew.
Verifiable? Certifiable.
They are lovely. They are illustrious. They are my co-hosts.
Murder, arson, and jaywalking.
To my right is my wife, Joyce. Hello.
Hello.
Next to her is the oldest fruit of my loins.
That's weird.
Did that gross you out?
A little bit.
This is Carmen.
No.
Next to her is Jordan.
Hello.
And finally, on the tail end is Reagan.
Hi.
We're here to talk about Solo. This is the newest edition of the Star Wars franchise, which puts out as many movies as Marvel.
Well,
I don't think so. I think Marvel is more prolific.
And this movie, Solo, is the origin story, the backstory for
Chewbacca.
and
he's
Han
Lando
Solo.
Calrissian.
hairless pet.
His weird hairless pet. Han.
And here we get to see how Han Solo became Han Solo.
Yeah. Literally.
Solo isn't even his real name.
Yeah. Who knew?
It's like a stage name.
It is kind of.
I knew that was supposed to be a thing in this movie, but everybody was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna blah, blah, blah. But I like the way that they did it. I was like, yeah.
What?
Yeah, there was a thing out at the beginning when all the promotional stuff was coming out. Everybody's been raising a stink about this movie anyway, but they're like, oh, Han Solo isn't even his real name. And they're like, oh no, you can't have him be named something else. You're gonna have him change his name to Han Solo, and it's just gonna suck, and terrible movie, and all that. But it really wasn't like that at all. So
Aren't they saying that too just because he's not Harrison Ford?
I think
the
so.
actor? I actually didn't have an issue with it. I feel like I was in that first generation that watched the first Star Wars movie several times. And
Yeah.
and it changed my whole life. And so I feel like I have as much right as anybody to be upset if he's not a good Han Solo, but I didn't have any issue with him. I felt like he was good.
Yeah, I thought so too. I really thought, and I have said this before in non-podcasting situations, that I really thought that he certain lines he would deliver them really in a Harrison Ford kind of way, and he had a lot of Harrison Ford kind of mannerisms that he had obviously studied and worked to try to be as like this original character as he could be.
The mannerisms of Harrison Ford and the voice and face.
No, you're wrong.
Just the voice of Leonardo DiCaprio.
He doesn't sound like Leonardo.
He
DiCaprio.
does. I promise he does.
Reagan's just a little preoccupied.
No, I promise.
Do you
he
think
looks
he promised?
exactly like him.
He doesn't look exactly like him.
He
In
has
that he has a face.
a face,
Got some eyes.
got some
He
hair.
just has the voice.
Well, so I felt like the new crop of actors did just fine portraying these roles. The guy that played Lando Calrissian.
I thought he was a real standout for how good he was at being like the original Lando.
Donald Glover
Yeah.
is his name.
I thought he did a great job. He was just like that other, the real Lando.
He strikes me as being as pleasant a surprise for what he was doing as like Zachary Quinto was in the first Star Trek,
I can see that. Yeah.
where you just thought, oh, he's gonna
He can't do
ruin
this.
Spock.
Well, I was actually really excited to see him in this role. I've seen Donald Glover in other stuff, and he's always kind of in the background, but he's got the same kind of like very easy sort of charm and charisma that you see him just kind of unleash in this movie. So when I heard he was Lando, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's a good one.
All right, let's talk about this movie just a little bit. Just in broad strokes, it turns out that Han Solo was raised on a shipbuilding planet that was kind of ruled by a lot of crime cartels, and he basically lived the life of like Oliver Twist,
Yeah.
where he's raised in the middle of one of these cartels, falls in love with a girl that's being raised the same way in the same cartel, and then the story goes they made a daring attempt at escape. Well, Han Solo made it out to his chagrin, and the girl that he loved was caught behind, and he spent all of his time after that trying to find a way back to her.
Yeah.
Only when he does finally meet up with her, after he's had some adventures by this time, trying to earn enough money through theft and piracy, basically, to buy his own ship. When he finally does meet up with her, it turns out that she's kind of done what she felt like she needed to do to survive. It was a really rough place, and just survival is kind of a big deal, and victory, and she's actually ascended to the point where she's a chief lieutenant of a really major crime boss. And then they have to work together on a mission to really make a big score for the big crime boss. And things break down from there, and it all turns into riotous fun.
Yeah. Hilarity ensues.
Right. I think for me, I thought it kind of had all the brains of a roller coaster, which is not, and I don't mean that as an insult. I don't think it's necessarily wrong to make a movie that's fairly brainless and just meant to be summer fun
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little
and an
lighthearted.
exciting kind of thrill ride. And so I think for what it was, I walked into the movie having seen a lot of bad reviews and seeing that it's kind of bombing at the box office. And where we saw it, it was playing with Avengers Infinity War at the same time, and the Avengers was sold out. You couldn't get in. And Solo, the theater was like half full. There are plenty of seats if you wanted to go see it.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was kind of a bad rap.
Yeah, that's true.
We're gonna podcast about Infinity War's next, the Avengers, but I've heard a couple of you say you think you like Solo better, and
Well, for different reasons. I'm
yeah,
sure.
but I don't think I can't really hate on that too much. This, as much as I despised Rogue One, I thought it was
Unnecessary.
an unnecessary thing that looked purely made not because they had a story to tell, but because they thought there was money to be made.
Well, but they did also tell a story.
Yeah, but it was not good, and it wasn't.
Because everybody died?
Yeah, and it wasn't terribly compelling, you know. But as much as I was disappointed by that one, I felt like Solo went way above my expectations. I thought it was better, just for what it was, and not demanding that it be something more. It was. I thought they did a good job, for one, of making Han Solo seem like he's just like an outlaw cowboy out in space. Is kind of what it seemed like.
Yeah.
And
Which is what he is anyway.
and the gangs that he rode with, they just seemed like train robbers and stuff. Well,
They were.
literally.
Yeah, they robbed a train.
And then a mining facility. So.
Oh, yeah.
So I felt like that was good. And one thing that I noticed, I believe, somebody might correct me, I believe this is the first Star Wars movie ever where no mention at all is made of the Force.
Yeah, that's got to be right.
Yeah, I
And,
don't remember that
That
at
was
all.
something. That was something I'd seen. That this is one of the. And that's one of the detractions that people have made from it too. Is that this Star Wars is supposed to be out of the Force and the Jedi and the Sith, and you don't have any of that in here. And this is a
Don't
terrible
they?
Star Wars movie.
They had a hint of something.
Yeah,
there at the
but it was
end,
at the
so-
very end, and he didn't
Well,
really
yeah.
use the Force. And
Who
But
even was
that's
he? I'm
not-
so confused.
That's not the way Han is, though.
No,
He's not
it's
a big
not.
Force guy, and
Ye-
so, you know,
his
Why
movie
would-
shouldn't have the Force in it.
it wouldn't be reflective of him.
Maybe the Force is in the movie and nobody notices because
Because that's
it's
not.
Han Solo and he doesn't care about the Force. I've
Well,
actually
and
seen.
like Han, by the time we see him in the original movies, he's so far not had any encounter with the Force that is anything worth mentioning to him, at least
Right.
because he has no reason to believe that it's even a thing. And so,
Yeah.
like, why
so
would he have an encounter with the Force in this movie years before that?
it's
Yeah.
unrelated stuff, but there are people that theorize that Han is actually like Force sensitive. That,
Oh,
like
Han is not Force sensitive.
that, and it's not like oh, I can use the Force and move stuff around and stuff. Not like how Leia's Force sensitive or anything like that. But like Han and like Poe and stuff like that, like these really really good pilots that are just able to do these sorts of things
They
and
can't
dodge
just be
stuff.
good pilots.
Some of the stuff that they do is insane. That him
Right.
flying out into this space
Unknown,
mist and stuff, and like, okay, well, let's take a random flip this way, and we just miss a rock.
Right.
That's stuff that there's a reason people don't do that. So that's. And
So
it's-
they're saying maybe the Force is moving through him without him
Maybe the
knowing.
Force
Yeah.
is actually with him.
that there's
Well, but that's the whole thing with the Star Wars Empire, is that it's everywhere, and people,
yeah.
if you're aware of it or not, it's still an
There's
entity.
there's some people that are able to use it, and there's some people that are able to feel it, and there's some people that it just kind of likes. And Han is just one of those people that the Force just kind of likes.
Interesting.
But like I said, that's unrelated. So
Well, no, that's what we were talking about a little bit. Well, that's interesting. All right, let's go around. Give me your top take on Solo. Mom, you've been designated.
I've been pointed out.
Not worldview wise, but just
I
general.
I liked it. It may be one that I would want to get. I don't know if I would have to get it, but it's a fun movie. It's fun, and it's true to the characters. And these are a lot of favorite characters that you're seeing. And like with Chewie,
Yeah.
and of course Han is that lovely scallywag that everybody thinks is terrific, and the rough guy, and even with Lando, and just see how those relationships developed, and you can kind of see how they progressed into the next movies, and even the grudge between Lando
yeah,
and Han and
Han.
Han.
from the beginning.
So I I think they took really good care of those characters that people were familiar with, and they didn't mess with them terribly much, which I think is always a big... somebody always wants to tweak the character or change them just a little bit or enhance them and make them better, and I think they just let them be who they are supposed to be, and so that was nice.
Yeah, I agree. Carmen, you got an overall?
I think a lot of people wrote this movie off the moment they heard about it. That the moment someone said, "Oh, well, we should have a Han Solo prequel story," that everybody's like, and I've told you some of the things that people have been upset about. And one of the other things that I've seen some people be upset about is the female character, played by Emilia Clarke, Kira, that is like, oh, Han Solo having some girlfriend and stuff like that and being in love with somebody, that's terrible. And, Han Solo, blah, 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 and it's like, okay, sure, he's this big scallywag dude, but everybody has feelings to some point, and it's kind of, they talk about it in the movie that Han Solo is, at the core of him, he's the good guy.
He doesn't want to be the good guy.
He doesn't want to be the good guy. He knows it's kind of a personal issue.
Yeah.
That puts him in a position of weakness, but that's what he is, and the good guys always fall for the girl.
And even this relationship, I think, kind of flavors how he goes into the thing with Leia and not really wanting to be serious about anything.
Or commit, or actually say how he feels about it.
We see him committed to this one girl, and he really was going to go back for her, and that was his whole goal and intent. And then to find her at this place where he's not even expecting her to be. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, hey, you're here, let's leave.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah.
I don't have to do this anymore because you're here. And so when she leaves him and doesn't explain anything about why she's leaving or what's going on.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
So...
well, of course she disappears at some point. Somehow she's there at the end.
Not there because he goes on
she's
by
never
himself.
there again.
Yeah.
There's a sequel to the prequel.
Yeah,
I'm just
so
saying, you never know.
I think, like I said, I think a lot of people wrote this off. I understand why you would write it off. When I was little and stuff, I really liked Han Solo a lot.
Just when you were little.
Yeah, all the time. Modeled a lot.
Ford.
Yeah, I've modeled a lot off my personality off of Harrison Ford, which is kind of terrible.
As Han Solo.
As Han Solo and Indiana Jones. Just Harrison Ford in general. But I really do think this is it's a good movie. I think there's some good bones to it. I think there's some good ideas within it. I think it's a good setup for the future. And I think, if you want to be negative about something without seeing it, it's a decent movie. It's a fun movie.
Yeah.
And if you want to, if you don't want to go watch it, then I think you're missing out on something.
Yeah.
And if you want to argue, then come fight me. So.
Contact her at Carmen at the internet.
Yeah. Carmen at the internet.web.
Oh, I thought it was .google.
.google.
Changed it to .web.
I'm
She's on a
international.
different server.
It's also .google as well, but that's my private email. .web is my fighting email.
Because of the webs?
Yeah.
All right. Jordan, you got any overall comments here?
I thought it was fun. It was probably better than I thought it was going to be. Just because,
Because you saw Rogue One, right? Wait. What am I saying?
I did see Rogue One, but no, I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good time. I really was impressed with a lot of the acting, and I felt like everybody did a good job being who they were supposed to be, and I liked all the different first meetings that we get to see. That was all very fun to like just sort of be like, oh, look, it's Han Solo, and he's doing his own little thing, and he's just a youngin', and oh, how crazy, and I don't know, it's
always skirting on the edge.
Yeah, it's a good summer thing. I also really I thought it was really cool that when stuff that was clearly Star Wars started happening, that was like calling back to the movies and stuff, that's when the music in the background started playing the really iconic Star Wars type of music.
Yeah.
Well,
I thought that was really fun. So, like, by the time it's Han and Chewie sitting where they're supposed to be sitting, you're, like, in full Star Wars music, and I was like, this is
right.
did you catch?
this is artistic cinema.
Did you catch with when he was going and getting recruited to the Imperial Army that the recruitment music was the
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that it was the
But, like, lighter?
yeah, it
More
was like it was patriotic. It was patriotic.
Patriotic.
I can't help it. 'Cause it's also
You could try.
I can't.
So cold.
Find me. Carmen.internet
Wait.
at internet.web. You have my address. But yeah, somebody pointed it out. I heard it and I was like, oh, that's kind of odd. But it's because that's the recruitment music for the Imperial offices.
That's funny.
Which means that Darth Vader's basically playing, the Star Spangled Banner every time he walks into a room. Which I thought was funny, but...
All right, Reagan, you got any comments?
Yeah, but I have to preface that I didn't watch any of the other new Star Wars movies, and the last time I saw the originals was like, I don't know, it's probably like 5. So, going in as pretty much just like fresh eyes, I guess. I thought it was a good movie. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I didn't think that you needed to like have seen the old ones to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm sure obviously they liked it more than I did because they got all these references and, this foreshadowing stuff, which is fun. But
not for you.
I think that's what they call it. Yeah, but I enjoyed it as just a movie to watch for the summertime. That was
good. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and take our break.
Wait,
Oh,
just
yeah.
another little note. This was directed by Ron Howard, and
Oh,
I
okay.
think, he just did a really good job, and I think maybe somebody else directing it doesn't turn out the way that this did, so...
Oh, okay.
I think you have to give a nod to the director on that, because he's kind of an unexpected director,
Yeah,
but he always does a really good job.
that's probably true.
Good job, Ron.
Alrighty. Well, so we're going to take our break. We'll be right back. See ya.
Bye.
The Reconstructionist Radio Podcast Network brings to you a complete lineup of podcasts where you will hear practical and tactical theology. Our desire is not simply that you consume our shows, but that you also live out your faith in every area of life. We can talk all day long about these things, but if we fail to put them into practice, then we fail as ambassadors of Jesus Christ, our King. Subscribe now to your favorite Reconstructionist Radio Podcast Network shows, or you can subscribe to the Reconstructionist Radio Master Feed, where all of the content we produce, including the audiobooks and audio articles, will pop up as soon as they are available. And don't forget to visit ReconstructionistRadio.com to volunteer as a narrator or to partner with this ministry financially. May the Holy Spirit stir you into action for Christ and His kingdom.
Here they come! Let me give you some advice. Assume everyone will betray you, and you will never be disappointed.
I got a really good feeling about this.
Since when do you know how to fly?
190 years old? You look great.
Push it! We took this job!
Wow, that's so exciting!
What fun!
Everyone needs to calm down.
It's us, Worldview Media Podcast, the most frivolous podcast on the Reconstructionist Radio Network.
Yeah.
It's good to know your place. Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Stick to the status quo.
Well, we're
Stick
winning,
to stuff
so
you know.
Yeah,
Hashtag.
we're winning.
winning. Yeah, flip them. Hashtag winning.
Actually, we joke about it, but the truth is that the kingdom of God really is supposed to be extended into every area of life. And when you look around at the things that upset a lot of people, a lot of Christians about the way the culture is going, the culture isn't going that way because they sat around and watched a whole bunch of TED Talks about this is the way we need to go.
Well, if that's all they did.
the culture is going that way because of stories that they've seen in movies and TV shows. It's the power of the narrative and the storytelling that really, little by little, has changed our culture. And my contention is that when the bad guys do that, they're doing it with tools that Jesus left for the church to use. And so what we're hoping to do is inspire storytellers and other artists to understand that this kind of art and telling of tales is important, that it preaches, and it preaches in a way that the average pastor can't really do. And so here we are, we're talking about Solo. We all kind of liked the movie, thought it was pretty decent.
Yep.
And now in the second half of our podcast, we'd like to talk more thematic things. And can we, like I was just saying, can we spot what is being preached to us in Solo? Please don't hum on the podcast.
Sorry. And the Star Wars songs.
And so that's what we're trying to do. What are the themes, or what? I know it is kind of a roller coaster summer action film, and
Yeah.
I don't get the feeling it has a real huge philosophical agenda behind it. It is a money-making machine, but it still does. I think it still does wind up communicating some morality here and there. So, thematic stuff. What you got from Solo?
Well, I think in the first part that we just did, we already sort of touched on this thing about Han being a good guy and not really wanting to accept that kind of about himself, because he knows that being a good guy is going to end up causing a lot of trouble.
It's not gonna be easy.
Life would be way easier for him if he wasn't the good guy. If he didn't have to care about other people and what happens to them and whether he can help. Because if he didn't care about all that stuff, then he could just
Walk away.
go on his merry way and not have to worry.
He complains
But he clearly
about that
does, and
in the later movies too. He's like, you're lucky I'm a nice guy or something like that.
Well, yeah, the whole Han Solo character does kind of carry throughout the franchise that idea that you're talking about, that carrying and putting yourself out there is risky and dangerous and will eventually get you run through with a lightsaber on a bridge somewhere.
yeah, it's crazy what happens in life.
The
And
road being kind to me.
so that thought is there. You did hit on something that, in spite of everything, Han Solo really is a good guy, in spite of him not even wanting to be at times. The worldview issue is, now we know how he was raised. From as young as he can remember, he's been trained as a thief and smuggler or whatever. And so the question kind of becomes, where did this good guy thing come from?
It's the Force.
Oh, it's the Force.
Force is like, I like this one.
Well, but I think that the worldview that tells that kind of story is a very Disney worldview that has a very optimistic view of humanity, and just kind of has this idea that good people are born good people, and even if they maybe don't like it, they almost can't help but be good people, because it's in their makeup, it's who they are. So
Yeah.
being a good person or learning to love and care about people. That's just kind of innate in this worldview. And Christianly, we would say that there are some times when people are raised in horrific circumstances and then they wind up not being nearly as bad as they could be. Mm-hmm. And we attribute that to the common grace of God just restraining evil. But generally, as Christians, we think if you're gonna train up people, and especially young men, if you're going to train up young men to be heroic young men, that takes some effort. And that's not something that's going to happen accidentally, and it's not something that's going to happen in a wicked system. And so it's almost like Han Solo's goodness, him being a good guy and a hero, it's almost a form of rebellion, I guess. What did you think, Mom?
Well, you see a contrast between the two characters, the girl, Kira, and Han, and they're both trying to come out of the same situation, and she gets stuck there. And so, would she still be the same person had she been able to go through the gate and they'd run off together? Do these people remain the same? Does she change? So I think that's kind of interesting with her having to stay, and she makes her own choices, and he goes making his choices, wanting to go back and help her. It's just, all of our choices have consequences.
Yeah.
Well, and also thinking it over, just, while you're talking about it, that Han is, I would say, the only person that suffers from this naturally good guy thing out of everybody that we meet in this movie. That the girl isn't, Lando maybe isn't all that bad, but he's still bad, cheating the cards all the time, and the outlaws.
Kind of self-serving.
The outlaws that, he hooks up with are bad and betray him, and, and the rebels that, they end up helping at the end that are, killing people and stuff, that they never try and, contact them and be like, hey, at the very end where they're like, hey, so you need to stop doing this because they're bad guys. They don't ever do that before. So, how many people have they killed instead of trying to, recruit? And then, of course, the bad guy. And then even Chewbacca, at the beginning, wants to eat him. So,
well, he was hungry.
He was hungry. I'll give him that. But, if you want to put it like that, then Han's really the only one that suffers from this issue.
Accidental goodness.
Yeah. I had another thought, but I thought it was kind of interesting that the Beckett character, who's kind of serves as Han's mentor.
Woody Harrelson.
Yeah. Tallahassee. His big lesson that he tries to teach is that you can't trust anybody, that's his big, thing, is that don't trust anybody. And that he's very kind of unrepentant about a lot of things, that the woman that he's supposedly in love with and stuff dies, and he kind of mourns her for
as long as it takes to bury her.
Yeah, as long as it takes to bury her. And then he keeps going. And, Han's like, I'm sorry about her. And he's all,
Life happens.
Life happens. That's how it is, And he's just very kind of dismissive. And, as soon as he can, he sells people out. And he says, I like you, Han. And then throws him to the bad guy. I just think it's interesting that, because Han sees him, he's like, this guy's cool. I want to go follow this guy, but kind of the difference between them is that this guy is what Han thinks he's supposed to be, whereas, he can't be that,
doesn't have it in him.
Doesn't have a minute to be it, and that's almost seen as a failure in this movie, that's if you had just been able to do it, you could have had so much more.
Could have had it all.
Oh, that was the other thing. The girl, we were talking about the girl that she, makes her own choices and stuff like that. That she's also super unrepentant about any of this as well. That she doesn't want to tell him all the stuff that she's done, because then he's not going to look at her the same way. Not that, she's a terrible
maybe.
person. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Woody?
And she's all, I don't want you to look at me differently. And then, you know, at the end where they have the ship and they have the money and they can go. And then she says, okay, go ahead and I'll be right there. And then she immediately goes and calls the bad guys and like, hey, so I'm in charge now. Just leaves them. You know, that's... So it's not just that she's doing what she has to do to survive to get back to him. It's that she's decided that she's...
Well, she's made her choices.
Yeah.
And like I said, those have consequences,
Mm-hmm.
and she knows what they are should she change her mind.
Yeah.
Well, she had a line that you thought had worldview significance.
Yeah.
What was the line? She just came right out and said something that was kind of
She just
philosophical.
said, who do you serve?
Everybody serves somebody.
Everybody serves someone.
Shades of Bob Dylan. Well, and of course we believe that's true. And so that Beckett character that you're talking about, he was self-serving.
Yeah.
Unrepentantly self-serving. And at least the way the movie ends, it looks like the girlfriend is the same way.
Mm, yeah.
And now she has masters over her if she's going to stay in the organization that she's in, but her motivation seems to be completely self-serving.
Yeah.
So. And then one other thought that I had was that it's not just the Han backstory, but you almost get more of an Empire backstory and a rebellion backstory.
Yeah, kind of.
And I wound up thinking during the movie that it's unfortunate, it's sad that the good guys were named the rebellion right from the beginning, because Rushdoony points out that rebellions are generally always ungodly, and they're using the rhetoric of liberation for the sake of simply overturning the order that exists and placing themselves as the new order.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why things like the French Revolution became such a nightmare and so bloody and just wicked, and Antichrist really is. You know, they were more than a resistance movement. They were a legitimate philosophical rebellion.
Yeah.
And it was horrible. And meanwhile, the American so-called revolution was really more a resistance, really more a defense action. And I, as I was sitting there watching the end of Solo, I was thinking, it's kind of sad that we have to call the good guys the rebellion here, because this is making plain that they're acting in pure self-defense, and this is a resistance movement. This isn't the French against the French, or French atheists against medieval Catholicism. That's not what this is. This is more like the French resisting the Nazi invasion. Mm-hmm. You know, that's not a rebellion when you're fighting to preserve that which was yours from encroachers.
Yeah, that first group is the rebellion, and then I think the second one that we're in with
resistance,
with the Last Jedi and stuff like that, is the resistance, is what they're called.
Oh, they changed the name to
resistance?
Yeah,
because it's a different movement now.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Scratch all that. No.
Still good stuff, but I just wanted to say that's something that's referenced.
Well, there is a difference, is all I'm saying. The rebellion generally wants to just overturn the status quo and become the new status quo. And the resistance is hoping to preserve the good that's being overrun.
Yeah, which I think fits
That's really
the
what the rebellion
movements.
was.
Yeah,
right?
was getting rid of Palpatine to put a new order in, and now the First Order came up, and now they're resisting the First Order, trying to keep them from kind of changing things. But I don't know how much they actually changed before the First Order showed up.
Right.
It's within a generation, I'm not sure.
Yeah, true.
What did you do?
Not too much.
You got stabbed by a lightsaber.
It's crazy what will happen in life.
Well, anything else on this worldview-wise?
Yes?
I thought Chewie was kind of fun.
trying to get back to his
Yeah, that he
Looking for his people.
that he was looking for his people and stuff like that, and he did. He found some Wookiees.
Oh, yeah, that's something that I remember
Yeah.
too, because when Han was, like, introducing Chewie to those guys all around that fireplace, and he was, like, having to translate him speaking Wookiee about how he wasn't sure if he said he was trying to get back to his family or if he was trying to get back to his tribe, and the guy was like, well, what's the
Isn't it the
difference
same
between
thing?
those things? Like, aren't those the same? And Han was like, oh, well.
Maybe so.
And that kind of got me thinking too, because like throughout the movie, Han's sort of attached himself to these people, but that's not his family. This is like his tribe. But then it wasn't even really his tribe because they betrayed him. So I don't know. That
That's why
really
he's
leads
solo.
nowhere to me. Like
Well,
that doesn't have a
solo.
point, but
No,
like,
it
but it's
kinda
just an
has a point.
observation.
It kind of has a point. Like if you want to go bigger with it, that the whole thing of it is that Han is alone. That's why they call him Solo. That's what he changed his name to, from Han to Han Solo. Haters. But that he is alone in that, maybe he thinks he's found something with this girl, and then she lets him down, and then he thinks he's found something with...
You know why she lets him down? Because she's a human.
Yes. Good job.
Evil.
You got your one
Nice.
good sentence in.
That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. And then the
was she
robbers...
Because she helped them out.
Well,
Said
I didn't say
human.
she was evil. I said she was human, so of course
Yeah.
she was gonna let him down.
Of course.
But anyways,
There's high fives flying.
that he keeps trying to find that tribe or that family, and he never does.
Right.
And then at the end, he has Chewie,
Right.
and
And we know that eventually he'll have the Skywalkers
yeah,
until
until
he gets stabbed with a lightsaber.
Till he doesn't.
I saw this thing, and I thought it was really funny. It's kind of related because it's about Chewie, but that they say he's 150 years old,
196.
100 and something like that.
Yeah.
He's up there.
Crazy
So,
numbers.
that Chewbacca has literally lived long enough to see the entire Skywalker family ruin the universe.
It's true.
3 different generations of Skywalkers just screwing stuff up.
Well,
Man, they were supposed to bring balance to the Force.
I don't know.
They were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them.
You were my brother!
so, you do have some things with friendship there. And what he thought was a real friendship with a girl.
Yeah.
And then what turns out to be a real friendship with Chewbacca.
Yeah, and that Chewie saves his people and stuff like that. And they're like, okay, let's go. And he's like, no, man, I gotta stay with this weird hairless guy. And then they stay together for
A long time.
a really long time.
You're crazy.
What'd you say, Reagan?
This young version of Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's what should have happened in another movie?
No.
Someone didn't hold on like Chewie.
Edit this out.
Hey, Reagan, just remember, near, far, wherever you are.
Finally, the one reference I get this whole podcast.
You made me angry.
Well, all right. I think we should close this up. Close up the old podcast bag.
So go see this movie because it's really a good movie.
It's fun. It's a
good.
fun time.
It's a good movie.
Until next time, y'all, go out and dominionize. Amen. Bye.
Bye. What?
Thank you for listening to the Worldview Media Podcast. Please visit reconstructionistradio.com to check out the other podcasts in our network and to download our free audiobooks.